Hi everybody, and I thought I'd take a little time to show you something I think you'll really enjoy, and I think it's something you probably will want to get under your belt as we move on to new classes in Rebelle, which I'm hoping to bring to you very soon. So let's go ahead and start, and what we're going to learn about today is actually how to create a custom brush. And it's a little bit easier than you might think, and there's a couple of ways that we can go about doing it, but let's go ahead and get started. First of all, let me close a couple of things here. We're going to go up to the File menu and choose File New, or when you open Rebelle, you can do this. And what we want to do is create a file that's 512 by 512. And we want the DPI to be 200, and it's going to be set in pixels. And if you want to be able to use this particular size over and over again, and I would bet that you will, especially if you're going to be creating a lot of brushes, go ahead and save it as a favorite by selecting the favorites option here. And you can add it as a preset by just selecting this Add Preset. Now, if you want to have a custom name for it, like, for example, Brush Creation, and then go ahead and add it, it's going to pick up that 512 by 512 Brush Creation, and when you select Favorites, it will come up under there, okay? And then select OK. Don't select OK yet. We want to work with a specific paper here, and this is important. We're going to go ahead and click on Canvas, and we're going to choose the white simple paper, and this is the one that we want to use. We're not going to use any deckled edges on it. In fact, it doesn't even give you the option to do that. And just select that and select OK, and then OK, and it's going to open up just like this into a new file, and we can get started. Now, you can paint into your canvas using black or a dark color just to create a shape, and you can capture that as a brush dab. And dark colors basically are going to block out, they'll block the color from coming through, and as you get lighter and lighter, more paint will come through in your brush stroke. So that's why sometimes I'll say you'll need to invert something so you're able to get a solid solid shape of that particular dab that you're using, if that makes sense. It will make sense as we get into this and go a little bit further. So just remember that black will block the color coming through, white will let more paint come through, and gray will let some of that light come through in the painting process. Now, you can also import selections, and I'm going to show you how to do that. I'll show you just a couple of easy ways of actually creating brushes here, which is just pretty cool. So let's say, for example, we're working in our watercolor brush engine, and we're going to bring up the Show Brush Creator, and that's located right here on the watercolor panel, and I'm going to open it up. And the brush I'm going to be using here is called the Dry Rough, and you should have it in your watercolor brushes for the KB class brushes. Now, if you started getting a lot of brush categories going here, and you have a lot of brushes that you have to scan through, remember that you can collapse these, okay? See these little options on the side here, the little arrow options? So it means that you can collapse all your brushes down so you can easily go to a particular brush category when you want to use it. So in this case, I'm going to go to the KB class brushes, and I'm going to pick the Dry Rough brush here, and this is the one I'm going to be using. And with that brush, we're going to talk about, first thing in creating brushes, we're going to talk about the shape of the brush. And so you're set up to go, you have your brush creator open, You have the dry brush, but let me also mention that it doesn't matter what brush you use here. You can pick up any brush in this particular category or any of the default brushes to create your own custom brush, okay? I just happen to like this dry rough brush. It gives me a nice effect for the look that I'm going after here. So don't worry that, don't worry about where you place that brush. It's not to be concerned. Don't be concerned with what brush you use, okay? Not important. So in this case, we're working in watercolor. We've picked the dry brush, and in the next video, we're going to talk about how to actually create our shape. See you in the next video. Okay, so when we look at the shape, this is very, very similar to what we would have in Painter, for example. This is considered the shape or the dab of the brush, okay? This is the makeup of that brush. It's what the brush dab looks like when you lay it down. So if I were to take, for example, this brush, and with my dry rough, and I've got some paint here, let me get this out of the way and do some strokes on here, you can see that that brush has a very, very distinct shape, and it's based upon this particular shape right here. So what if I want to create my own custom shapes? I want something a little bit different here. Well, let me show you how you would do that. I'm going to use a very dark color here. I'm going to make sure that my opacity is up, and I'm going to bring the water down pretty low on this brush this time because I don't want a lot of water penetrating just to create the stroke in itself, the shape in itself. So what I'm going to do is do a few little brush dabs here, maybe a little smaller, something like that. And maybe like that. And this is going to be the basic shape that's going to go into my new brush. So how do I get that into the shape library? So all I need to do is click on the shape, and it's going to open up the image library. And this is where all the images that go into creating that brush shape reside, whether they're custom or whether they're default. All the way down, okay? Stars and shapes, all the defaults are in here along with any customs that you have. Now, if I want to capture this particular stroke or this shape in my image library, I'm going to come down here and I'm going to choose Import Selection. Now watch what happens when I do that. Notice that that shape has been added into the image library, and that's where it's going to reside for any brush that you choose until you delete it. So if you want to remove it, you're just going to select this little option here called Remove Texture, and it's gone, okay? So you don't have to worry. Let me show you that. I'm going to select it. Are you sure that you want to remove that? Yes, I do, and it's gone. But let's go ahead and add it back again. So it's there. And now when I paint with that brush, and let's clear the canvas and then close this. Let's take a nice pretty fall color here, and probably thinking, well, this looks really like a nice fall tree or something. I can bring the water up, create some texture within the brush, some wetness. You notice how it's starting to flow out. So it's a very organic looking watercolor brush. I can control the pressure, water, and of course that F key to dry things really quickly. So it's now residing in the brush creator, in the shapes, and in the image library, and I can use it with oils or acrylics or pencils or whatever I want, okay? So it's there, and now I can use it, all right? So the other option you have here is that you can draw something. Now, you can actually create a selection around something that you want to be a new brush. So for example, if I go, say, to my round 4 here, I'm going to reset it to default, making sure that it's all default settings here. And again, I'm going to use a dark color to create this brush stroke. And maybe I want something that kind of looks like this for a new brush. Okay, and I'll just select the F key to dry it, all right? Now I'm going to come over to the selection tool, which is on the tools bar here, and choose the rectangular selection. I'm going to drag a selection around that shape, and again I'm going to come over to my brush creator, select the shape option, and choose import selection. And there you can see that that brush has been added. Let's go ahead and close that. And you'll notice that because I used black, a dark color, to create the shape, for example, I don't have to invert it because it's already set to go. If I do, I'm going to pick up a square like this, and that isn't what we want to see. We want to see more of these strokes like this, okay? This is what we're after in this brush. So let me take the water down a little bit, and we'll make a smaller brush, do some strokes, and you can see that we've come up with a completely new brush. Now, if you like one of these brushes and you want to save this as something that you'll use time and time again, of course, you can always save as a new brush preset. And it will save it in that particular library that you're in. Okay, so the other option, and the third option that you have, is to, of course, import elements. And there's actually a fourth way that I'll show you here too. So let's go ahead and go back to the image library here. And we'll go to the we're going to go to import texture option and select that. Now I'm in a folder here that has a lot of different brush strokes and dabs in it, and you'll notice that this is the actual default Rebelle shape library that we were just in, as a matter of fact. Well, I want to go outside of that because I want to bring in something that is not in the default library. So I'm going to go to my F drive here, and I'm trying to remember where I put those. I think they're in my Painter folder. And we're going to go to custom dabs, and this is just my custom dab folder here. And I have some bamboo dabs I'm going to use here. So these are fun and ones that I think will make good watercolor brushes. So I'm going to pick this one, number 24, and open it. And you'll notice that it opens up into the image library, just like that. So now I can use this brush as a custom dab. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and reset this brush to default because, again, I want to go back down to my dry rough. I'm going to reset that brush to default. But I do want to change the dab. So I'm going to click on the shape, and I'm going to click this new bamboo that I just brought in, okay? Now notice the background is white, okay? So that's telling me that there's a problem there because I'm going to get more light or white coming through, and I'm actually probably going to get this square instead of the actual shape. So I'll invert that now. So the black is going around the shape. So when I lay in the brush, you can see that I'm getting that nice bamboo look, okay? So this is why I just love this particular way of creating brushes, because you can find custom brushes or default brushes that you have, and you have that ability to change the shape of the brush and really create something that is just phenomenal. One of the very first things I actually do is go down to the rotation of the brush, and because I am using an art pen, I set the brush to pen rotation. If you're not using an art pen, it will automatically put you on pen tilt, okay? The other option, of course, is just none or follow trajectory, and that would mean that the brush just goes in the direction that you send it, okay? So one of the things I'm going to do here is pen rotation. And I'm going to take a look at that brush, and this brush has got a lot of rotation going on, and that's something that I don't necessarily want in the brush. So the first thing I'm going to do is come down to this angle jitter here and bring that down, because I don't want any jitter, any angle jitter. I want everything being controlled by the pen rotation of my brush. And you can see that that's happening now. So as I lay in this bamboo, I'm using my art pen, and I have that ability to very easily put those strokes exactly where I want them. Okay, and using my F key, I went ahead and dried that. All right, so very simple. The same would apply, even to grain. You can capture textures from your layers and do basically the same thing. You just import the selection, and you can import some real interesting textures into your image library as well for paper textures. So I don't want to necessarily get into more complicated areas, because I think we're also learning right now how to work with Rebelle to get the best effects. And I think it's important that you learn the basics, but I think there's a lot of value in learning the basics of creating a brush, because it will give you the opportunity to bring in maybe some of your dabs from Painter, import them in. Here's a good example. Let me just repeat that one more time. We'll just go File and Import Image, and let's use this one here and bring it in. And we'll use the Shift key to constrain the proportions and bring that size down a little bit, and then select OK. And then when I go over here, I'm just going to import selection, and there I have some more beautiful bamboo to work with. We'll close that. Pen rotation is still selected, and I can use that brush to create some beautiful bamboo effects. So hopefully that will help you get started. Remember, if you see white in the background of your shape, it means that you need to invert it. That's the easiest way to remember it. Very simple and easy. The final option that I was going to show you here is to just simply open your library folder and go to your brushes, go to your shapes, and then just simply drag the PNG into this particular folder from your desktop or any folders that you have. Copy paste is another option. And then when you open Rebelle up again and you get ready to paint, you will see that particular dab you just pulled in to the library here and available for you to use. Okay? So if you have any questions, let me know, but I think this will get you started and give you some fun things to think about going forward. Okay, I'll talk to you soon. Take care.